My parents sold my college fund for my sister's wedding, so I canceled the venue they didn't know I owned. They always said education was my path to freedom, but when it came time to choose, they chose my sister's perfect day over my future. So I made a choice too. They just didn't know I had that power. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Olivia Chen. I'm 26 years old, and until last month, I was the responsible one in my family, the planner, the fixer, the one who always understood when plans changed because family comes first. It starts with a phone call 3 months ago. I was in my small apartment, surrounded by textbooks and financial aid forms, trying to figure out how I could finally finish my degree after working for 6 years to save up. That's when my mom called, her voice that special mix of apologetic and firm that I'd come to recognize as the prelude to disappointment. "Olivia, honey, we need to talk about your college fund." I remember exactly where I was standing. By the window, watching rain streak down the glass, my reflection distorted, but my smile still intact. Still believing. "What about it?" I asked, thinking maybe they wanted to discuss how to transfer it to my account now that I was finally ready to use it. "Well?" My mom paused, and I heard my father clearing his throat in the background. "Your sister's wedding plans have gotten a bit upgraded, and we're facing some challenges with the budget." I sat down slowly on my second-hand couch. "What does that have to do with my college fund?" Another pause. "We had to make a difficult decision, honey. We used the money from your college fund to help cover the costs. But don't worry, we'll help you apply for loans and—" The rest of her words faded as I tried to process what she was saying. The $42,000 my grandparents had set aside for me. The money I'd been counting on. The future I'd been planning since I took time off to help support our family when Dad got sick 4 years ago. Gone. Because my sister Jade wanted a designer wedding gown and a fancy reception hall. "Olivia, are you there?" My mother's voice cut through my thoughts. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I'm here. We know it's disappointing, but you've always been so good at figuring things out. And it's not like you were using it anyway. Jade needs this now, and you know how special her wedding day is." I did know. I'd heard about nothing else for the past 8 months. How Jade had found the perfect venue, Willow Creek Manor, an elegant historic building with gardens overlooking the city. How her fiancé Ben's family couldn't contribute much financially, so my parents were covering most expenses. How this wedding would finally put our family on the social map in our town. What my family didn't know was that I had been working 60-hour weeks and saving every penny not just for tuition, but because I had plans of my own. "It's fine," I lied. "I understand." "We knew you would," my father chimed in, relief evident in his voice. "You've always been our rock." After I hung up, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat in silence, staring at the wall where I'd pinned my class schedule for the fall semester. Classes I now couldn't afford. Then I looked at my laptop, open to the small business account for WC Properties LLC, the company I'd formed 2 years ago when I pooled my savings with my best friend Marcus to purchase a foreclosed property on the edge of town. A historic building we'd spent weekends renovating. A business we'd built while my family thought I was just picking up extra shifts. A building known to most people as Willow Creek Manor, my sister's perfect venue. I picked up my phone and texted Marcus, "We need to talk about an upcoming reservation." That night, I didn't plan revenge. I planned justice, not just for me, but for every time I'd been expected to sacrifice because I was the responsible one. For every time my dreams had been considered optional while my sisters were treated as essential. My parents had made their choice. Now it was time to make mine. I should probably tell you how we got here. Growing up, My sister Jade was always the golden child. 3 years younger than me, she was beautiful, outgoing, and knew exactly how to make our parents melt with a smile. I was the practical one. Straight A, student part-time job since 16. The one who helped mom with dinner and made sure dad took his heart medication on time. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. My grandparents had set up college funds for both of us, equal amounts. Jade used hers for a marketing degree she never really wanted, but would look good while she built her influencer career. I decided to wait, to figure out what I truly wanted to study before spending the money. That turned out to be my first mistake. When Dad had his heart attack 4 years ago, I was 22 and had just been accepted to the State University Business program. I deferred my enrollment to help at home, picking up extra shifts at the restaurant where I worked to help with medical bills. "It's just temporary," Mom had assured me. "Your college fund is still there waiting. Family comes first, right?" I believed her. I always did. While I worked double shifts, Jade continued her education uninterrupted. "She's already started," Mom explained. "It wouldn't make sense for her to stop now." It made sense to me, but I didn't argue. I never did. A year after Dad recovered, I met Marcus at a business seminar I'd saved up to attend. He was smart, ambitious, and had an eye for opportunity. When he mentioned a historic property going up for auction, a foreclosure that the bank was practically giving away, something clicked. "It needs a ton of work," he warned, "but the location is prime, and in 5 years, it could be worth triple the investment." I looked at the photos of the dilapidated building with its crumbling stonework and overgrown gardens and saw possibility. I saw my future. I emptied my savings account, $18,000 I'd managed to set aside over years of tips and overtime. Marcus contributed $22,000 from a small inheritance. Together, we formed an LLC and purchased Willow Creek Manor for $40,000. Every weekend for 2 years, while my family thought I was picking up extra shifts, I was actually at the manor, painting walls, replacing flooring, learning to rewire lighting fixtures from YouTube tutorials. Marcus handled the business side, securing permits and marketing our venue to wedding planners. 6 months ago, we hosted our first event, a small wedding for a couple with a tight budget. They raved about the undiscovered gem and posted pictures that caught the attention of local wedding planners. Suddenly, our weekends were booked 6 months out. I never told my family about the business. After years of being overlooked, I wanted something that was just mine. Something I built without having to explain or justify or share. Then my sister got engaged. Jade and Ben's engagement was a whirlwind of Instagram posts and family celebrations. When she announced they'd booked Willow Creek Manor, the most exclusive new venue in town, I nearly choked on my dinner. "How did you even get a reservation?" I asked. "They're booked solid." "Oh, someone canceled," Jade said dismissively. "And we had to pay a premium, but Daddy said not to worry about it." I looked at my father, who nodded proudly. Nothing, but the best for my little girl's special day. I should have said something then, but I didn't. I was still processing the strange collision of my two worlds, my family and my secret business, when the final blow came. They'd used my college fund to pay for the premium reservation at my own venue, plus all the other extravagant wedding expenses. The irony was almost poetic. They had paid me, through my business, with money that was already mine. Money meant for my education. After that phone call with my mother, I sat in my apartment and made a decision. I didn't want revenge. I wanted recognition. I wanted them to see me, really see me, for the first time in years. I called Marcus. "They used my college fund to pay for her wedding," I explained, "including the reservation at our venue." Marcus whistled. "That's cold. What do you want to do?" I thought about it. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Let me handle the Chen wedding personally, I said finally, as venue manager. You sure? He asked. They'll know about the business. That's exactly the point, I replied. The next morning, I walked into my parents' house for the weekly family breakfast, a tradition my mother insisted on maintaining even though Jade rarely showed up before noon. Today was different. Everyone was there, including Ben and his parents, gathered around the dining table discussing flower arrangements. Olivia! My mother exclaimed. Perfect timing. We're just discussing the centerpieces for the reception. I smiled. Actually, I wanted to talk about the venue. Oh, isn't it gorgeous? Jade gushed. We have another tour scheduled next week. You should come. The gardens are to die for. I know, I said calmly. I planted them. The table fell silent. 5 pairs of eyes stared at me in confusion. What do you mean you planted them? My father asked. I took a deep breath. Willow Creek Manor belongs to me. Well, half belongs to me. I co-own it with my business partner. Jade laughed nervously. That's not possible. It's this super exclusive venue that was a foreclosure 2 years ago. I finished for her. That I bought with my savings and renovated on weekends. That's now booked solid for the next 6 months because we've worked incredibly hard to make it successful. My mother's hand flew to her chest. You own a business? Why didn't you tell us? I met her eyes steadily. Because you never asked. Not once in 2 years did anyone ask why I was busy every weekend, or how my life was going, or what my dreams were. But your college fund, my father started, is gone, I said. You took money meant for my education and used it to book my own venue, money I was counting on to finally finish my degree this fall. Ben's parents looked uncomfortable. My sister's face had drained of color. My father opened his mouth, then closed it again. So, I continued, pulling a folder from my bag, I have some paperwork for you. First, I'm officially canceling your reservation at Willow Creek Manor. You can't do that, Jade cried. We've sent out save the dates. Actually, I can. It's my business. But I'm not heartless. I slid a check across the table. This is a refund for the venue deposit. And this, I placed another document down, is a list of alternative venues that still have availability on your date. Olivia, my mother said, her voice shaking. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Because you need to understand something. My dreams matter too. My future matters too. I've spent my entire life putting this family first. And when I needed you to do the same for me, just once, you chose a party over my education. I stood up. The money you're getting back from the venue deposit should cover the down payment at any of those alternative locations. They're all lovely, just not as lovely as mine. As I walked toward the door, my father called after me. Wait, where are you going? I turned back. To the manor. We have a wedding this afternoon, and I need to make sure everything is perfect. Because that's what I do. I make sure things work. I solve problems. I build things that last. The silence that followed me out the door wasn't satisfying. It wasn't triumphant. It was just necessary, like finally lancing a wound that had been festering for years. That afternoon, as I arranged flowers in the main hall of Willow Creek Manor, my phone buzzed repeatedly with texts and calls from my family. I ignored them all. This was my sanctuary, the place I had built with my own hands, and today I needed its peace. Marcus arrived to help set up, eyeing me cautiously. How did it go? About as expected, I replied, adjusting a centerpiece. Shock, denial, anger. No understanding? I shrugged. Didn't stick around long enough to find out. He nodded, knowing better than to push. That was one of the things I appreciated most about Marcus. He recognized when space was needed. As the afternoon wedding party began arriving, I slipped into my professional role, coordinating with the caterers, directing the photographers, ensuring the bride had a moment of calm before walking down the aisle. This was what I loved, creating perfect moments for people, seeing joy unfold in a space I had helped build. Halfway through the reception, I stepped outside for a breath of air and found my father standing in the garden, looking out of place in his casual Saturday clothes amidst the formal wedding guests. "Dad? What are you doing here?" He turned, startled. "Your mother said you weren't answering your phone." "I'm working," I replied. He looked around at the twinkling lights in the trees, the stone pathways I'd laid myself, the renovated gazebo where the ceremony had taken place. "You really did all this?" he asked quietly. "Not alone. But yes, a lot of it." He nodded slowly. "I had no idea. All those weekends. You never asked." "No," he agreed. "I didn't." He took a deep breath. "Olivia, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to say you were right. We've taken you for granted. We assumed because you were always capable that you didn't need support." I crossed my arms, protecting myself from the hope his words tried to kindle. "Your mother and I talked after you left. We're going to take out a home equity loan to replace your college fund. All of it." I blinked in surprise. "A loan? Dad, your heart?" "Is fine," he interrupted. "And this is important. More important than a fancy wedding. Jade won't see it that way. Jade will adjust," he said firmly. "This isn't her decision. It's ours, and we should have made it differently from the start." I wanted to believe him. Wanted to accept that this sudden reversal was genuine and not just a ploy to get the venue back. But years of being the reliable one, the one who understood, the one who gave in, had built walls I wasn't ready to lower. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "But I can't give you back the venue reservation. We've already booked another client." He nodded. "I understand. Actually, your sister and Ben are looking at one of the alternatives you suggested. The old mill by the river." "That's a beautiful spot," I said neutrally. "Not as beautiful as this," he gestured around. "But it will work." He hesitated. "We'd like you to help, though. Not as the venue owner, but as Jade's sister. Your eye. For detail, your organizational skills. We could use them, if you're willing." Part of me wanted to refuse, to hold on to the hurt and let them figure it out themselves. But another part recognized this for what it was. An acknowledgement. Not just of my business acumen, but of my value to the family beyond being the reliable one. "I'll think about it," I said honestly. He nodded, accepting this was all I could offer for now. "And the college fund replacement?" "I'll accept it," I decided. But with conditions. I want it in writing, and I want it transferred directly to the university bursar's office, not held in a family account. A flicker of hurt crossed his face, but he nodded. "That's fair." After he left, I returned to the reception, watching strangers celebrate love in the space I had helped create. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Everything okay with your dad?" I typed back, "Getting there." The next week was tense but productive. My parents followed through, showing me documentation of the home equity loan and the arrangement to pay my tuition directly. Jade was sullen, but resigned to her new venue. I maintained professional distance, helping with wedding logistics, but protecting my boundaries. Then came the day of my university orientation, the program I would finally be starting in the fall. As I parked on campus, I was surprised to see my entire family waiting by the administration building. Jade, Mom, Dad, even Ben. "What are you all doing here?" I asked as I approached. "Supporting you," my mother said simply. "It's your day." "We brought something," Jade added, holding out a gift bag. Inside was a framed business license for WC Properties LLC, professionally mounted with a card that read, "To the most impressive Chen. We see you now." That was when I knew that sometimes losing what you thought you needed can lead to gaining what you truly deserved all along. Recognition, respect, and the chance to finally put yourself first. They always said education was my path to freedom. But I found that freedom wasn't just in degrees or dollars. It was in being seen, in building something from nothing, in standing up and saying, "This is who I am. This is what I'm worth." And no wedding, no matter how perfect, could ever compare to that. The history between my sister and me wasn't always tense. Once upon a time, we were inseparable. I remember summers spent building makeshift forts in our backyard, Jade following me around with wide eyes as I explained how to construct the perfect hideaway. I was the architect, and she was my eager apprentice. That dynamic shaped our entire childhood, me leading, her following, both of us finding comfort in our designated roles. Our parents reinforced these patterns without realizing it. Mom would say, "Olivia, watch your sister," or "Olivia, help Jade with her homework." Dad would beam with pride when I'd solve a problem without asking for help, while praising Jade for simply attempting it. Different standards became our normal. I never resented this arrangement growing up. Being needed gave me purpose. Being reliable gave me identity. While Jade pursued cheerleading and social media fame, I worked after-school jobs and maintained a perfect GPA. My future was mapped out: get a scholarship, earn a business degree, build something meaningful. When I was accepted to the state university with a partial scholarship at 18, everything seemed to be falling into place. The college fund from my grandparents would cover the remaining costs. I remember my grandmother's words when she established those accounts. Education is the one thing nobody can ever take from you. The irony of that statement still stings. 2 weeks before my freshman year was set to begin, Dad collapsed at work. The heart attack wasn't fatal, but the recovery would be long and expensive. Our health insurance covered most of the major expenses, but the deductibles, medications, and loss of income hit our family hard. I can still see my mother sitting at our kitchen table, bills spread out before her, calculator in hand, shoulders slumped in defeat. I knew what needed to be done before she even asked. "I can defer my enrollment," I offered. "Work full-time until Dad's back on his feet." The relief in her eyes was both validation and heartbreak. "Just for a year," she promised. "Your college fund will still be there waiting." That night, I called the university to defer my enrollment, and the next morning applied for a full-time position at the restaurant where I'd been waitressing part-time. The manager, Diane, didn't hesitate to hire me. "You're the most dependable employee I have," she said, handing me a full-time schedule. Though I wish the circumstances were different. I threw myself into work, picking up extra shifts whenever possible. The routine was grueling but grounding. Morning shifts at the restaurant, afternoon visits to the hospital to sit with Dad, evenings helping Mom with household tasks she'd never had to manage alone. Meanwhile, Jade continued her freshman year of college undisturbed. Her fund remained untouched. "We can't disrupt both your lives," Mom explained when I questioned this, "and she's already started her program." I nodded, swallowing the obvious point that I hadn't even had the chance to start mine. Dad's recovery stretched from months into a full year. By then, I'd been promoted to assistant manager at the restaurant. The salary wasn't impressive, but it was steady. My university deferment had expired, requiring a new application if I wanted to enroll. But without the scholarship I'd lost, the numbers didn't make sense anymore. "Maybe I should take some community college courses," I suggested during a family dinner. "Just to keep moving forward." "That's a great idea," Dad said, his voice still weaker than before. "Your college fund is still intact. We could use some of it for that." "Actually," I replied, "I was thinking of paying for it myself. saving the fund for when I can go back full-time. My parents exchanged glances, a silent communication I couldn't decipher. "That's very responsible of you," Mom finally said. I didn't know then that this decision, to leave my college fund untouched, would ultimately lead to its redistribution. I thought I was being prudent. I thought it demonstrated maturity. I enrolled in night classes at the community college, studying business management while continuing to work full-time. Dad gradually returned to his job, though at reduced hours. Our family finances stabilized, but never quite recovered to their previous state. Jade graduated with her marketing degree 2 years later. The ceremony was a full family affair. Balloons, professional photographs, dinner at an expensive restaurant. I attended with a genuine smile, proud of my sister despite the contrasting treatment of our educational journeys. "Your turn next," Dad said, arm around my shoulders as we watched Jade pose for photos in her cap and gown. "Eventually," I agreed, not mentioning the promotion I'd just been offered at the restaurant. Management track, benefits, a real career, path that had nothing to do with my original plans, but had grown from the detour I'd been forced to take. That's when I met Marcus. He wasn't a customer at the restaurant or a classmate from my night courses. He was the keynote speaker at a small business seminar I'd saved up to attend, Property Investment for Beginners. Marcus wasn't like the typical investment gurus, no flashy watch or rehearsed spiel about getting rich quick. He was practical, blunt even, about the risks and labor involved. "Real estate isn't passive income until you've actively worked your ass off for years," he told the room. "Anyone telling you differently is selling something." I approached him after the presentation with specific questions about commercial zoning regulations. His eyebrows raised slightly. "Most people ask me how quickly they'll make their first million," he said. "You're asking about municipal code compliance." I shrugged. "I figure if I'm going to dream, I might as well understand the reality behind it." He laughed and offered me his card. "I'm looking for a research assistant for my next project. Someone detail-oriented who won't get stars in their eyes at the first sign of potential profit. Call me if you're interested." The part-time research position with Marcus opened doors I hadn't known existed. I studied property listings, tax records, auction notices, and foreclosure filings. I learned to identify genuine opportunities amid the market noise. When Marcus mentioned the historic building heading to auction, I already knew its potential before he finished his sentence. "Willow Creek Manor," I said, spreading the property records across his office table. Built in 1902 as a summer home for the Henderson family. Converted to a small hotel in the 1950s. Foreclosed last year when the previous owner overextended on renovations. "You've done your homework," Marcus observed. "The location is unbeatable," I continued. 10 minutes from downtown, but surrounded by enough land to feel secluded. The structure is sound despite cosmetic issues, and the Historical Society has it registered, which means tax incentives for authentic restoration. It also means restrictions on what we can change, he pointed out. True, but the heritage designation also makes it unique in the wedding venue market. Couples pay premium prices for authenticity and history. Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying me with newfound respect. "You're not just researching this, you're pitching it to me." I met his gaze. "I have $18,000 saved. It's not enough on its own, but if you're interested in a partnership." He laughed, surprised. "You want to be an investor, not just my research assistant." "I want to build something," I corrected him. "Something that's mine. Or partly mine, anyway." The auction was scheduled for a rainy Tuesday morning. I requested the day off from the restaurant, telling Diane it was for a doctor's appointment. Marcus and I arrived early, strategy in place. The opening bid was set at $30,000, an incredibly low price reflecting the property's dilapidated condition and the bank's eagerness to offload it. When the bidding started, my heart pounded so loudly I was certain everyone could hear it. There were only two other bidders, a developer known for tearing down historic properties and a retired couple looking for a project. The developer dropped out at $36,000, apparently determining the restoration restrictions made demolition unfeasible. The couple pushed to $39,000 before shaking their heads. $40,000? Marcus called out, his voice steady while my hands trembled. The auctioneer looked around the room. Going once, going twice. Sold. Just like that, I became a property owner at 24 years old. Not the path I'd envisioned when planning for college, but somehow more tangible, more immediately mine than any degree would have been. We formed the LLC that afternoon, WC Properties for Willow Creek. The paperwork listed us as equal partners, though Marcus contributed slightly more capital. Your sweat equity will more than make up the difference, he assured me, already, mapping out renovation priorities. I didn't tell my family about the purchase. At first, it was because I wasn't sure it would succeed. Later, it became something precious I wanted to protect from potential disappointment or criticism. My parents had always prioritized traditional education as the only path to success. How could I explain that I'd emptied my savings into a crumbling building instead of my community college tuition? So began my double life. Weekdays at the restaurant, evenings taking business classes, and every weekend at the manor. I learned to sand floors and patch plaster. Marcus taught me basic electrical work and how to identify load-bearing walls. We hired professionals for major structural issues, but did everything else ourselves to stretch our limited budget. You're a natural at this, Marcus observed 6 months into renovations as I carefully stripped decades of paint from an ornate banister. Most people would have quit by now. I've never been a quitter, I replied, focused on revealing the beautiful wood grain beneath layers of neglect. Besides, I can see what this place is going to be. That makes the work easier. The transformation was slow but steady. We restored the grand staircase first, then the main hall with its coffered ceiling. The garden took 3 months of backbreaking work, clearing overgrowth, replanting period-appropriate flowers, rebuilding the stone pathways that wound through the property. Every weekend, I drove home exhausted, hands blistered or stained, but with a sense of accomplishment I'd never experienced before. My family noticed my absences, but didn't question them deeply. Picking up extra shifts became my standard explanation. They assumed I was saving for tuition, which wasn't entirely untrue. I was investing in my future, just not in the way they imagined. By the time Jade announced her engagement to Ben, Willow Creek Manor had hosted 3 small weddings and a corporate retreat. We were still operating under the radar. No major marketing campaign, just word of mouth and a carefully curated Instagram account that showcased the venue's transformation. Each event generated revenue we immediately reinvested in further improvements. I remember the exact moment my worlds collided. Sunday family dinner, 1 week after Jade's engagement. She was scrolling through her phone, showing wedding inspiration photos to our mother. "And look at this venue," she gushed, turning the screen my way. "Willow Creek Manor. Isn't it gorgeous?" There on her screen was my garden, the rose arbor I'd rebuilt with my own hands, the stone pathway I'd laid piece by piece over countless weekends. "How did you find that place?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Instagram. All the wedding planners are talking about it. It's super exclusive. They're already booked for most dates next year." She sighed dramatically. "But Ben's aunt knows someone who knows the owners, so we might be able to get in." I nearly choked on my water. That seems like a stretch. "Well, we have to try. It's perfect." The gardens, the grand staircase for my entrance, that chandelier in the main hall. She looked at our father with practiced, pleading eyes. "Daddy, it's my dream venue." Dad smiled indulgently. "If it's what you want, Princess, we'll make it happen." I felt a strange twist in my stomach, pride that my venue was coveted enough to be Jade's dream location, mixed with dread about where this was heading. Over the next few weeks, I watched in silent amazement as my sister and parents jumped through hoops trying to secure a booking at my own property. Marcus handled all client communications, so they had no idea of my connection. When he texted to ask if I wanted to reveal myself as co-owner, I hesitated. "Not yet," I replied. "Let's see where this goes." Where it went was a booking fee far above our standard rate, the premium my sister had mentioned, paid by liquidating my college fund. The fund I'd preserved by working overtime, taking community college classes from my own pocket, deferring my dreams to help our family through crisis. The same fund my parents had assured me would always be there when I was ready. That night, after my mother's phone call delivering the news so casually, I sat in my apartment surrounded by the life I'd built while no one was looking. My business portfolio, my class notes, photos of Willow Creek's transformation. I realized something important. I wasn't angry that they'd used the money. I was angry that they'd never truly seen me. Never recognized that while Jade was planning her dream wedding, I had already built my dream business brick by brick without their knowledge or support. It was time they saw the whole picture. Not out of vengeance, but because I was finally ready to step out of the shadows of their expectations and stand in the light of my own accomplishments. The night after learning my parents had emptied my college fund, I couldn't sleep. My apartment felt too small, the walls closing in as I paced from kitchen to living room and back again. At 2 a.m., I finally grabbed my keys and drove to Willow Creek Manor. The property looked different at night. Moonlight silvered the gardens, casting long shadows across the pathways I'd laid by hand. Security lights illuminated the facade in a soft amber glow. I unlocked the heavy front door and stepped inside, my footsteps echoing in the empty grand hall. This building knew all my secrets. It had witnessed my frustrations, my determination, my growth. I'd bled here, literally, when I sliced my palm open on old roofing nails. And I'd cried here too, when storms damaged the new garden plantings we couldn't afford to replace. Every corner of this place contained a piece of me. And soon my sister would walk these floors, completely unaware of whose dreams supported her steps. I made my way to the office Marcus and I shared, flipping on the small desk lamp. The reservation book lay open, Jade and Ben's wedding marked in red ink. Chen Walker wedding, full property rental, premium rate. Next to it, a note in Marcus's handwriting. Confirmed payment received. My money, my college fund, paid to my own company for my sister's perfect day. There was a certain twisted poetry to it, I had to admit. And as a businesswoman, I should be thrilled. It was a substantial booking fee and would help fund the next phase of renovations we'd planned for the East Wing. But as a daughter, as a sister, it felt like the final confirmation that my family had never really seen me clearly. I opened my laptop and pulled up our company files. The Chen Walker contract was already scanned and uploaded. Marcus was nothing if not efficient. I read through the terms, noting the cancellation policy we'd established. Full refund if canceled more than 90 days before the event. 50% refund if canceled between 30-90 days. No refund if canceled less than 30 days prior. Jade's wedding was in 8 weeks. Right in that middle window. I wasn't vindictive by nature. Responsibility had been ingrained in me too deeply for that. But as I stared at that contract, a plan began forming, not for revenge, but for recognition, for finally being seen. I sent Marcus a text, despite the late hour. Need to talk about the Chen Walker wedding tomorrow. Important. His response came almost immediately. Everything okay? You're at the property? I see the office light on security cam. I'm fine, I replied. Just thinking. Don't think too hard. We'll figure it out. 10 a.m. tomorrow? Perfect. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. The manor creaked and settled around me, a century-old building still adjusting to its own existence. I understood that feeling all too well. By morning, my plan had solidified. Not a dramatic cancellation that would leave my sister without options, but a strategic revelation that would force my family to finally see me. Not as the reliable daughter who always understood, but as a woman who had built something significant while they weren't looking. Marcus arrived at the manor at exactly 10 a.m., 2 coffee cups in hand. "You look like you haven't slept," he observed, sliding 1 cup toward me. "Thanks for the compliment," I said dryly, accepting the coffee. "So, what's the emergency with the Chen Walker wedding? Did they request something impossible? More fairy lights than exist in the entire county? Doves released at midnight?" I smiled despite myself. "The Chen Walker wedding is my sister's wedding." Marcus froze, coffee cup halfway to his lips. "Your sister? The one you've mentioned with the marketing degree and the Instagram obsession?" "The very same." "And they booked our venue without knowing you co-own it?" "Correct." "That's—" He searched for the right word. "Awkward." "It gets better," I continued. "They paid the deposit with my college fund, the money my grandparents set aside for my education that I've been preserving for years. The money my parents assured me would be waiting whenever I was ready to use it." Marcus set his cup down carefully. "Olivia, that's not awkward. That's messed up." "I know. So what do you want to do? Cancel the booking?" I shook my head. "Not exactly. I want to handle this booking personally, as venue manager. And I want my name on all the paperwork from now on." He studied my face. "You're going to reveal yourself." "I am." "They're going to be shocked." "That's the idea." Marcus leaned back, considering. "You know, most people would just cancel the event and send a strongly worded email. But this—" A slow smile spread across his face. "This is much better, making them face you directly. It's not about embarrassing them," I clarified. "It's about them finally seeing me, really seeing me, and what I've built. And if they don't like what they see, if they get angry that you've kept this from them," I shrugged, "then they'll be experiencing exactly what I felt when they took my college fund without a real conversation. Seems fair." Marcus nodded slowly. "All right then. As of this moment, you're officially the lead on the Chen Walker wedding. All communications go through you. All site visits, all vendor coordination, all paperwork." "Thank you." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the lightness of decision made. "Just one question," he added. "Why wait until now? Why not tell them about the business from the beginning?" I considered this, tracing the rim of my coffee cup. First, it was because I wasn't sure we'd succeed. Then it became mine. Something I built without having to explain or justify or share. After a lifetime of being the family support system, I needed something that was just for me. And now? Now I need them to see that I'm more than their safety net. I'm a person with dreams of my own. Over the next week, I prepared methodically. I reviewed every detail of Jade's booking, familiarized myself with her requests and vendor selections. I practiced what I would say when the moment came, rehearsing in front of my bathroom mirror until the words felt natural. The opportunity arrived sooner than expected. 3 days after my late-night visit to the manor, my mother called. "Olivia, honey, are you free this Friday morning? Jade has a site visit scheduled at her wedding venue, and she'd love for you to come along. Give your opinion on the space." My pulse quickened. "What time?" 11. We're meeting the venue manager for a full tour." "I'll be there," I promised, a smile spreading across my face that she couldn't see. That Friday morning, I arrived at Willow Creek Manor 30 minutes early. I wore my most professional outfit, a tailored navy blazer over a crisp white blouse, matching trousers, and low heels. My business owner attire, as Marcus called it. I'd even added a small WC Properties pin to my lapel, our company logo, displayed proudly. I walked through the property, making final adjustments, straightening picture frames, checking that fresh flowers had been placed in the entrance hall, ensuring the garden paths were swept clean. This was my creation, and today it would finally be acknowledged. At precisely 10:58 a.m., a car pulled into the circular driveway. My mother emerged first, then Jade, followed by her fiancé Ben. Dad was surprisingly present too, having apparently taken time off work for this important occasion. I watched through the leaded glass window as they approached the entrance, Jade already gesturing excitedly at the architectural details of the facade. Taking a deep breath, I moved to the massive front door and pulled it open just as they reached the top step. "Welcome to Willow Creek Manor," I said, my voice steady despite the thundering of my heart. "I'm Olivia Chen, co-owner and venue manager. I'll be handling your wedding personally." The expressions that crossed their faces occurred in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, shock. My mother's hand flew to her throat. My father froze mid-step. Ben looked between all of us, clearly sensing something significant, but not understanding what. Jade recovered first. "What are you talking about? You work at the restaurant. You're taking business classes." "I do, and I am," I confirmed, stepping aside to usher them into the entrance hall. "I also co-own this property with my business partner, Marcus Wallace. We purchased it 2 years ago and have been renovating it ourselves." My father found his voice. 2 years? You've owned this place for 2 years and never mentioned it?" "That's correct." I maintained my professional demeanor, though it took effort. "Now, shall we begin the tour? We have a lot of ground to cover if we're going to make sure Jade's wedding vision can be properly executed." Wait, my mother interjected. "You can't just drop this on us and then act like it's business as usual. How could you keep something this significant from your family?" I turned to her, keeping my expression neutral. "The same way you could decide to use my college fund for Jade's wedding without a real discussion. Some decisions are made unilaterally, it seems." A heavy silence fell. Ben shifted uncomfortably, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. Jade's eyes darted between our parents and me, her expression morphing from shock to calculation, already assessing how this revelation might impact her plans. "We should have talked to you more seriously about the college fund," my father finally said, his voice subdued. "That was a mistake." "Yes," I agreed. "It was. But this," he gestured at the manor around us. "This is different. This is a major life decision you kept hidden." "Is it different?" I asked quietly. "Or did we both make assumptions about what the other would accept and understand? You assumed I would accept losing my education fund because I always accommodate family needs. I assumed you wouldn't appreciate or understand my business venture because it didn't follow the traditional path you'd laid out for me." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We've always supported your choices, Olivia." "You've supported my choices when they served the family," I corrected her gently. "When they involved sacrifice on my part. This was something I did for myself. And I guess I wasn't confident you'd see its value." Jade, ever practical when it came to her own interests, broke the tension. "So does this mean we can get a family discount on the venue?" A surprised laugh escaped me before I could suppress it. "Actually, you've already paid a premium rate, which reminds me." I reached into my blazer pocket and withdrew a check. "This is a refund of 50% of your deposit, in accordance with our cancellation policy." "Cancellation?" Jade's voice rose an octave. "You're canceling my wedding?" "I'm offering you a choice," I clarified. "You can find another venue. I've prepared a list of comparable properties with availability on your date. Or you can proceed with your booking here, with the understanding that I will be overseeing every aspect of it." "Of course we still want it here," Jade said immediately. "It's perfect. And now we know why we felt such a connection to it. It's got Chen blood in its walls." I raised an eyebrow. Poetic, but slightly morbid. You know what I mean. She waved dismissively. It was meant to be. My father, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Olivia, this place is remarkable, but I don't understand why you're giving us a refund. Because the money used to pay for this venue was taken from my college fund without my consent. I'm returning what rightfully belongs to me. I tucked the check into his shirt pocket. The remaining amount covers our costs and fair payment for services. Business is business, after all. He nodded slowly, a new respect dawning in his eyes. You really are a businesswoman. I really am, I confirmed. Now, would you like that tour? We can start in the gardens. They're particularly beautiful this time of year. I planted most of the perennials myself. As I led my stunned family through the property, pointing out features and explaining our renovation process, I felt a shift in the air between us. Their perception of me was changing in real time, from dependable daughter and sister to capable entrepreneur. The weight of unspoken expectations began to lift with each revelation, each proud description of what Marcus and I had accomplished. By the time we reached the grand staircase, Jade's chosen spot for her entrance, my mother had stopped wiping away tears and was asking intelligent questions about our business model. My father was examining woodwork and stonework with genuine interest, complimenting our attention to historical accuracy. Even Ben had relaxed, offering suggestions about sound system placements for the reception. Only Jade remained somewhat distant, processing this new reality where her reliable sister had a hidden dimension she'd never bothered to discover. As the others moved ahead to examine the reception hall, she hung back beside me. Why didn't you ever tell me? She asked quietly. I considered my answer carefully. Would you have been interested if I had? Her silence was answer enough. That's why, I said simply. But things can be different now, if you want them to be. She studied me with new eyes. You're not at all who I thought you were. I am, I corrected her. I'm exactly who I've always been. You just never looked closely enough to see all of me. For perhaps the first time in our adult lives, my sister really looked at me, not as an extension of her support system, but as a whole person with depths and capabilities she'd never acknowledged. Will you still help with my wedding? She asked, and not just as the venue owner, but as my sister? I will, I promised, but on equal terms this time, as sisters who respect each other's paths. She nodded slowly, a tentative smile forming. I'd like that. As we rejoined the others, I felt a sense of calm certainty settle over me. This revelation wasn't the end of something, but the beginning. Of honesty, of mutual respect, of being fully seen within my family. The real victory wasn't in the shock on their faces or the refunded deposit check in my father's pocket. It was in the subtle shift of how they looked at me now, with surprise, yes, but also with a dawning recognition of who I truly was. The path to being seen had been painful and complicated, but standing in the building I'd helped create, watching my family absorb the reality of my accomplishments, I knew it had been worth every step. The week following my revelation at Willow Creek Manor unfolded in unexpected ways. I had anticipated anger, resentment, perhaps even accusations about my deception. Instead, I received a series of hesitant olive branches from my family. My father called first on a Tuesday evening when I was reviewing vendor contracts in my apartment. Do you have time for lunch tomorrow? He asked, his voice carrying an uncharacteristic uncertainty. Just the two of us. My treat. We met at a small Italian restaurant equidistant between his office and mine. He arrived early, already seated at a corner table when I walked in. He stood awkwardly as I approached, as though suddenly unsure of our usual greeting protocol. The half-hug he offered felt stilted. You look different, he said as we settled into our seats. I glanced down at my outfit, the same business casual style I'd worn for years. Not really. No, not your clothes. He gestured vaguely toward my face. You carry yourself differently, more confident. I've always been confident. Dad. I suppose you have. He fidgeted with his napkin. I just never noticed it in quite this way before. After ordering, he cleared his throat and placed a business-sized envelope on the table between us. This is for you. Inside was a cashier's check for $21,000, exactly half of what had been in my college fund. It's what we can manage right now, he explained, watching my face carefully. We've applied for a personal loan to cover the rest, but approval might take a few weeks. I studied the check, emotions tangled. You don't have to do this. Yes, we do. His voice firmed. The fund was designated for your education. Taking it was wrong, regardless of the circumstances. Even if my sister needed it for her perfect day? The question came out more sharply than I'd intended. My father winced. Your sister's wedding is important to her, but it shouldn't come at the expense of your future. My future is already happening, I reminded him, tucking the check into my purse. I co-own a successful business, and I'm incredibly proud of you for that. His sincerity caught me off guard. But education is still valuable. If you want to finish your degree, that money should be available to you, always. I nodded, unsure how to respond to this unexpected support. Thank you. There's something else. He hesitated. Your mother and I have been talking. We'd like to visit the manor again, not for wedding planning, but to see your work properly, to understand what you've built. I'd like that, I said, surprised by how much I meant it. Our meal arrived, temporarily pausing the conversation. As we ate, my father asked thoughtful questions about the business, how we managed bookings, our renovation priorities, our long-term vision for the property. He listened with genuine interest, occasionally jotting notes on a small pad he pulled from his pocket. You could expand, he suggested at one point. With your eye for detail and Marcus's business sense, you could eventually buy more properties. That's the plan, I admitted. But we're focusing on making Willow Creek profitable first. Sustainable growth. He nodded approvingly. Smart. Many businesses fail by expanding too quickly. As we finished our meal, a comfortable silence settled between us. Not the awkward quiet of strangers, but the peaceful lull of mutual understanding. It felt new and familiar simultaneously. I'm sorry we didn't see what you were building, he said finally. And I'm sorry we made assumptions about your path without consulting you. I could have shown you, I acknowledged. I chose not to. Why? He looked genuinely puzzled. Were you afraid we wouldn't approve? I considered this, wanting to be honest without causing unnecessary hurt. I think I was afraid you'd see it as a hobby, not a career, a distraction, from what you thought I should be doing. And at first, when it was still fragile, I couldn't bear to have it dismissed. He absorbed this, nodding slowly. That's fair. We haven't always given your choices the respect they deserved. The simple acknowledgement loosened something tight in my chest. Thank you for saying that. 2 days later, my mother visited the manor. Unlike my father's direct approach, she arrived bearing gifts, a vintage set of crystal candlesticks for the mantelpiece and homemade cookies for the staff. Her way of making amends had always been through practicality and nurturing. We walked the property together, her eyes widening at details she'd missed during the initial tour. The hand-stenciled ceiling medallions, the carefully restored, original hardware on the doors, the antique light fixtures we'd rewired ourselves. You did all this while working full-time? And taking classes? She asked, trailing her fingers along a section of wainscoting I'd painstakingly stripped and refinished. Weekends, holidays, any free time I could find, I confirmed. It's why I was always busy these past 2 years. I thought you were dating someone you didn't want us to meet, she confessed with a small laugh. Or working extra shifts to avoid family dinners. Sometimes I was avoiding family dinners, I admitted. But mostly I was here, covered in sawdust and paint. She stepped into the bridal suite, a room I'd designed myself, with soft blue walls, a massive antique mirror, and a window seat overlooking the gardens. "This is exquisite," she murmured. "You have a gift for creating spaces that feel both elegant and welcoming." "Thank you." Her genuine admiration meant more than I wanted to admit. "Jade is lucky to be getting married here," she said, turning to face me. "Not just because it's beautiful, but because her sister made it beautiful. That adds meaning that money can't buy." I nodded, surprisingly moved by her perspective. "Will you help her plan the rest?" she asked cautiously. "She's floundering a bit, to be honest. This revelation has shifted things for her." "In what way?" My mother sighed, sitting carefully on the window seat. "Jade has always been the center of attention, the star. Finding out that you've been quietly building something this significant while she's been the focus of family support has been challenging for her self-image." "I'm not looking to overshadow her wedding," I assured her. "I know that. But Jade is realizing that perhaps she's been taking certain things, certain people, for granted." I sat beside her, our shoulders just touching. "I'm still her sister. That hasn't changed." "No, but her understanding of who her sister is has changed dramatically." She patted my hand. "She respects you now. It's different from just loving you." The distinction resonated. Love had never been lacking in our family, but respect, true recognition of capabilities and autonomy, had been more unevenly distributed. My mother stood straightening her skirt. "Will you come to dinner this Sunday? Your father is grilling steaks. Jade and Ben will be there." "I'll be there," I promised. The family dinner that Sunday felt like stepping into a familiar room where all the furniture had been subtly rearranged. The physical setting was identical: my parents' dining room, the same china we'd used for years, my father manning the grill on the patio. But the conversational dynamics had shifted noticeably. For the first time in memory, my input was solicited on topics beyond practical matters. My father asked about my thoughts on local zoning changes affecting commercial properties. My mother inquired about decorating trends I was seeing in the event industry. These were professional questions, posed with genuine interest in my expertise. Jade arrived last, Ben in tow, clutching a thick wedding planning binder. After dinner, as we moved to the living room with coffee, she approached me with uncharacteristic hesitation. "I've been thinking about the table arrangements," she began, opening her binder to a meticulously organized section. "Since you know the space better than anyone, I wanted your opinion." What followed was a genuine collaboration, not her dictating preferences for me to accommodate, but an actual exchange of ideas. I suggested moving the head table to take advantage of the natural light from the west windows. She incorporated my suggestion while offering thoughtful alternatives for the guest seating. We worked side by side for over an hour, her bridal vision, combining with my intimate knowledge of the venue. Ben and my parents occasionally contributed ideas, but mostly watched in fascination as we developed a rhythm previously foreign to our relationship. "You're really good at this," Jade commented, as we finalized the floor plan. "The way you balance aesthetics with practical considerations." "Years of practice," I replied. "Every event teaches me something new about flow and function." She closed her binder, studying me with newfound curiosity. "Would you consider being my wedding coordinator? Not just because you own the venue, but because I trust your judgment." The request surprised me. "What about Melissa?" She'd previously hired a friend of a friend as her coordinator. Jade waved dismissively. "She's more interested in Instagram opportunities than actual planning." and she doesn't know the first thing about Willow Creek. I'd be happy to, I agreed, genuinely touched by her request. But I'll need full authority to make decisions within the parameters we agree on. No micromanaging. Deal. She extended her hand formally, and we shook on it, both smiling at the businesslike gesture. Ben caught my eye from across the room and mouthed a silent, "Thank you." I nodded in acknowledgement, understanding his relief. Jade's perfectionism had likely been creating tension in their relationship as wedding plans intensified. As the evening wound down, I found myself on the back patio with my father, each of us nursing a small glass of his favorite whiskey, a rare indulgence he usually reserved for special occasions. "I keep thinking about how we nearly missed this," he said quietly, gazing up at the star-scattered sky. "Missed what?" "Knowing you. The real you. Not just the daughter who always helped out, but the woman who builds things, creates value." He took a thoughtful sip. "We came so close to never seeing that part of you." "I came close to never showing it," I admitted. "What changed your mind? Why reveal yourself now?" I considered the question carefully. I think I finally realized that hiding part of myself to avoid disappointment was its own kind of loss. Even if you hadn't been impressed by what I built, at least you would have seen the whole me, not just the pieces I thought you wanted. He nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, I am impressed. Not just by the business, though, that's remarkable. I'm impressed by your resilience, your vision, your willingness to forge your own path even when the easier route would have been following our expectations." The pride in his voice warmed me more than the whiskey. "Thank you. Your grandfather would have loved this," he added unexpectedly. "My father. He always admired people who could see potential where others saw only problems. I wish I'd known him better. My grandfather had passed when I was 12, leaving only fragmented memories. He knew you, though." My father smiled. Distantly. "He's the one who insisted on setting up those college funds for you and Jade. That older one," he told me once, "she's going to build something significant someday. Make sure she has the resources when she's ready." The revelation stunned me. "He said that? About me?" He did. And he was right. My father raised his glass slightly. To proving grandfather right. We clinked glasses gently, the small sound carrying into the quiet night. Something ancestral and new mingled in that moment, an acknowledgement of inheritances more meaningful than money, persistence, vision, the courage to build. That night, driving home from my parents' house, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because everything was resolved. The full college fund was still being sorted out, and Jade's wedding would undoubtedly bring fresh stresses, but because the weight of partial visibility had lifted. For the first time in my adult life, my family was seeing me completely, in all my complexity, and finding value there. The following week brought a flurry of wedding-related activities. As Jade's newly appointed coordinator, I found myself deeply immersed in details, meeting with caterers, finalizing floral arrangements, coordinating with the photographer. Rather than feeling burdened by these responsibilities, I discovered an unexpected pleasure in the collaboration with my sister. Freed from the constraints of our old dynamic, we developed a new rhythm. Her creativity balanced by my practicality, her ambitious vision grounded by my experience with the venue's capabilities. We still disagreed occasionally, but the nature of our disagreements had fundamentally changed. They were professional differences of opinion, rather than sisterly power struggles. The South Garden would be better for the cocktail hour, I insisted during one planning session. The light is perfect at that time of day, and it keeps guests from seeing the reception setup until the big reveal. Jade frowned at the diagram I'd sketched. "But the North Garden has those beautiful trellises." "Which will be in shadow by then," I pointed out. "Trust me on this. I've watched the light move across this property in all seasons. The photographer will thank you." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. You're right. South Garden it is. The simple acknowledgement of my expertise, offered without resistance or resentment, represented a seismic shift in our relationship. Where she had once automatically dismissed my suggestions, she now listened with genuine consideration. The respect flowed both ways, as I made real efforts to honor her vision rather than imposing my own preferences. Marcus noticed the change in my demeanor as we reviewed quarterly projections one evening in our office. You seem different, he observed. More settled somehow. Do I? Definitely. Less like you're bracing for impact and more like you're, I don't know, standing on solid ground. I considered his assessment. I guess that's what happens when you stop hiding significant parts of yourself from the people who are supposed to know you best. So no regrets about the big revelation? None, I confirmed. Though I'll admit it didn't go as dramatically as I'd imagined. I was prepared for fireworks and instead got gradual understanding. Marcus laughed. Probably healthier that way, though less entertaining for those of us on the sidelines. Sorry to disappoint your appetite for family drama. I'll survive. He closed the ledger we'd been reviewing. So what happens after the wedding? You've been spending a lot of time with your family lately. Will you stay this involved? The question gave me pause. I'm not sure. We're finding a new balance, but I don't want to lose myself in their needs. Again, this business, what we've built here, it matters to me. Good, he said firmly. Because we have expansion plans to discuss, and I need my business partner fully engaged. Expansion? He grinned, pulling out a folder I hadn't seen before. Robertson Estate is going on the market next month. 10 acres, original carriage house still intact. The main residence needs work, but we know how to do that, I finished, excitement kindling. Another venue? Or a boutique inn? To complement this property. Guests could stay overnight after events. The possibilities unfurled in my mind. New challenges, new designs, new growth. My own path extended further. I'm in, I said without hesitation. Let's run the numbers. As we dove into financial projections and property assessments, I felt a profound gratitude for this life I had built. Not in opposition to my family, but alongside them. The wedding that had initially seemed like a symbol of my erasure had become, ironically, the catalyst for my full emergence. In 6 weeks, Jade would walk down the grand staircase of Willow Creek Manor in her carefully selected gown. Our parents would watch with pride from the front row. And I would stand at the back of the hall, overseeing the culmination of both her dream day and my business vision, no longer invisible, no longer secondary, but fully present in my power. Some might call it revenge, this reversal of recognition. But it felt more like restoration, of balance, of worth, of truth. My parents had sold my college fund for my sister's wedding at my venue, and in doing so, they had inadvertently funded the very awakening they had long overlooked. The morning of Jade's wedding dawned clear and perfect, the kind of crystalline September day that photographers dream about. I arrived at Willow Creek Manor just after sunrise, unlocking the heavy front door as golden light spilled across the dew-covered gardens. For once, I wasn't there to work on renovations or manage another couple's event. Today, I was both business owner and family member, roles that no longer seemed contradictory but complementary, each enriching the other. The quiet hours before vendors arrived were precious. I walked the property slowly, mentally checking every detail. The chairs for the ceremony were already set up in the east garden, white covers crisp against the emerald lawn. The reception hall gleamed, tables arranged according to the plan Jade and I had finalized, the vintage chandeliers polished to a soft glow. Everything was ready. Marcus arrived as I was checking the bridal suite one last time. Nervous? he asked, leaning against the door frame. Oddly, no. I smoothed an invisible wrinkle from the antique chaise lounge where Jade would soon be, getting ready. It feels right somehow. Full circle. From hidden venue owner to official sister of the bride venue owner, he grinned. Quite the character development. Something like that. I took a final glance around the room. Emergency. Sewing kit in the drawer. Extra hairpins on the vanity. Champagne chilling in the small refrigerator. I think we're set. Then maybe take a minute for yourself before the chaos starts. Coffee on the back terrace? I brought those almond croissants you like. The thoughtful gesture touched me. You're a good friend, Marcus. Business partner. He corrected with a wink. But yes, also a good friend. We sat in comfortable silence on the terrace, watching the rising sun illuminate the gardens. In just a few hours, these peaceful grounds would be filled with guests, music, celebration. But for now, this moment of tranquility felt like a gift. A brief pause between my past and whatever came next. By the way, Marcus said, breaking the silence. I got the preliminary paperwork for the Robertson estate. Thought you might want to look it over tomorrow when things settle down. Already? The listing agent is an old college friend. She gave me early access. He sipped his coffee. No rush on a decision, but it's good to be prepared. The prospect of expansion might once have overwhelmed me, especially on a day already filled with emotional complexity. Instead, I felt a quiet confidence. Let's review it together Monday morning. First thing. He nodded, understanding that this wasn't avoidance but proper prioritization. Today belonged to family. Business would still be there tomorrow. The first vendors arrived promptly at 8. Florists with armloads of white roses and blue hydrangeas, caterers wheeling equipment. Toward the kitchen, the string quartet coming to test acoustics in the ceremony space. I slipped easily into management mode, directing traffic and answering questions while Marcus handled parking logistics. My mother arrived at 9, looking elegant but anxious in a silvery blue dress. Everything looks beautiful, she said, embracing me quickly. Is there anything I can do to help? Everything's under control, I assured her. Just enjoy the day. Where's Jade? Getting her hair done in town with her bridesmaids. They'll be here at 10. She glanced around, taking in the transformed space. I still can't believe you created all this. Not alone, I reminded her. Marcus and I had help with the major renovations. But the vision was yours. She squeezed my hand. I'm sorry it took us so long to see it. Before I could respond, my father appeared, looking distinguished in his dark suit. The photographers arrived, he announced. Wanted to know where to set up for the pre-ceremony shots. East Garden for the family portraits, bridal suite. For Jade's preparation photos, I directed. I'll show them. As I turned to leave, my father caught my arm gently. One moment, Olivia. He reached into his jacket pocket and handed me an envelope. This came through yesterday. I wanted you to have it before the ceremony. Inside was a bank document showing a transfer of $21,000 to my account, the remaining half of my college fund. The loan came through faster than expected, he explained. Your education fund is now fully restored. I looked up at him, unexpectedly moved. Thank you. It was always yours, he said simply. We just lost sight of that temporarily. The moment was interrupted by a coordinator's question about tent placement, pulling me back into wedding logistics. But as I moved through the morning's tasks, the weight of that envelope in my pocket reminded me of something fundamental that had been restored alongside the money: trust and recognition. Jade arrived with her entourage of bridesmaids precisely at 10, filling the bridal suite with excited chatter and the scent of hairspray. I gave them space, checking in periodically to ensure they had everything needed. My sister appeared surprisingly calm amidst the flurry of activity. meeting my eyes with quiet assurance whenever I entered the room. Around noon, during a lull, in preparations, she asked her bridesmaids for privacy. When they'd filed out, she patted the space beside her on the window seat. "Sit with me for a minute?" I joined her, careful not to wrinkle her half-completed hair arrangement. "Nervous?" "Not about marrying Ben." She smiled. "Maybe a little about tripping down that grand staircase you renovated." "We secured the carpet runner with extra tacks. You're safe." Always thinking of everything. She reached for my hand. "That's what I wanted to talk about, actually. I've been reflecting on how much I've relied on that quality of yours over the years. How much I took it for granted." "Jade, today is your wedding. You don't need to—" "I do, though," she interrupted gently. "Before I start this new chapter with Ben, I need to acknowledge something. I've been a self-centered sister." The frank admission surprised me. "When I first found out about this place, about what you built while I was busy planning Instagram perfect moments, I was angry," she continued. "Not at you, at myself, for never asking what you were doing all those weekends, for assuming your life revolved around helping with mine." "We fell into those patterns together," I pointed out. "I could have shared more." "Maybe, but I could have asked." She squeezed my hand. "I'm asking now. After the wedding and honeymoon, when you look at that new property you and Marcus are considering, I heard Mom and Dad talking about it, will you show me? Really show me your process, your vision? I want to understand this part of your life." The request, so simple yet profound, felt like the final piece falling into place. "I'd like that." "Good." She smiled, then glanced at her reflection in the nearby mirror. "Now help me figure out if this hairstyle is actually working or if I look like I stuck my finger in an electrical socket." Just like that, we were sisters again, teasing, laughing, helping each other prepare for important moments. But the foundation had shifted, built now on mutual respect rather than just familial obligation. The ceremony proceeded flawlessly. Jade descended the grand staircase on our father's arm, looking radiant in her gown. Ben waited below, his expression a mixture of awe and joy that even the most cynical guest couldn't doubt. They exchanged vows in the garden I'd planted, sunlight filtering through oak leaves to dapple the grass around them. I stood at the back, watching not just the ceremony, but the guests' reactions to the setting, their appreciative glances at the restored woodwork, the carefully preserved architectural details, the seamless blend of historical elements with modern comforts. Each nod of approval felt like acknowledgement of work that had once been invisible to everyone but Marcus and me. During the reception, as dinner service concluded and dancing began, I finally allowed myself to relax. Marcus appeared at my side, offering a glass of champagne. "To a successful event," he proposed. We clinked glasses, watching the celebration unfold in the space we'd created from a neglected shell. Across the room, my parents danced slowly, my mother's head resting on my father's shoulder. Jade and Ben moved among their guests, stopping for conversations and photos, radiating happiness. "Your family seems different," Marcus observed, "more aware of you somehow." "They are," I confirmed. "We all are." Later, as the evening wound down and guests began departing, my father found me near the vintage bar where we'd preserved the original mahogany countertop. "I keep noticing new details," he said, running a hand appreciatively along the restored wood. "Every time I look around, I discover something else you thoughtfully preserved or cleverly updated." "That was the goal," I explained, "to honor what came before while making it functional for today." He nodded, understanding flowing between us. "Rather like families, isn't it? Preserving what matters from the past while adapting to present needs." Exactly like that. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the last dance of the evening. "Have you decided about your degree?" he asked eventually. "Now that the funds are restored." I'd been considering this question since receiving the full repayment. "I'm going to complete it," I said, "but differently than I originally planned. Part-time business administration courses, focusing on historic property management and restoration. Skills directly applicable to what we're building here." "Smart," he approved. "Practical education to complement your hands-on experience. Plus, Grandpa set up that fund for education. I want to honor his intention, even if the path looks different than expected." My father's eyes crinkled with emotion. "He would have been so proud of you, Olivia. Not just for the business success, but for your integrity, for building something meaningful your own way." As midnight approached, the final guests departed. The catering staff efficiently cleared tables while the cleaning crew began their work. Marcus oversaw the vendor checkout process, leaving me a moment alone with my sister and new brother-in-law before they left for their hotel. "It was perfect," Jade said, embracing me tightly. "Every single detail." "Even better than our original vision," Ben agreed. "Thank you for everything, Olivia." "That's what family does," I replied, the words carrying new meaning now. After they departed, I made a final walk through the property, checking that everything was secure before heading home. In the grand hall, I paused, looking up at the elegant staircase where my sister had begun her journey toward a new chapter. My own new chapter was unfolding differently, not through marriage, but through creation and self-recognition. The business was thriving, expansion opportunities beckoned, and my family finally saw me clearly. The college fund, once diverted, had been restored, not just the money itself, but the faith and respect it represented. Some might view what happened as a story of revenge, of calculated revelation designed to shock and humble. Perhaps it started that way, in that first flash of hurt when I learned my education fund had been repurposed without my consent. But it had evolved into something more meaningful, a reclamation of self, an assertion of value, a rebalancing of family dynamics. As I locked the front door of Willow Creek Manor behind me, the weight of secrets finally lifted entirely from my shoulders. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, expansion plans to consider, courses to register for, a business to grow, but I would face them standing in full sunlight, no longer hiding in the shadows of others' expectations. My parents had sold my college fund for my sister's wedding at a venue they didn't know I owned. But what could have ended our relationship had instead transformed it, creating space for a more authentic connection, one built on seeing each other completely, with all our complexities and capabilities. Sometimes the most powerful response to being overlooked isn't dramatic confrontation, but quiet revelation, showing who you truly are and standing firmly in that truth until others have no choice but to see you clearly. And once they do, once you're finally fully seen, that's when the real story begins. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.